It all started in a way that, honestly, I never really paid much attention to at first. Life was moving fast, filled with projects, ambitions, deadlines, and a mind that rarely slowed down long enough to notice the small, quiet details happening around it. And yet, somewhere in the background, she was there. She wasn't loud about it, not dramatic, not someone trying to force her way into my world. She was just there, observing, admiring, understanding in silence. At first, I didn't think much of it. I saw her appreciation for what I did, the curiosity in her questions, and the way she seemed to genuinely care about things most people overlooked. You see, admiration is an interesting thing. It's one of those invisible forces that you don't immediately feel, but it quietly influences the air around you. She admired not just the work, but the intention, the why behind it all. That caught me off guard. Most people admire results. She admired purpose. There's something powerful about someone who sees you beyond the noise, who looks past what the world sees and notices the person underneath. In those early days, she wasn't trying to impress me. She wasn't trying to stand out. She was simply being herself, genuine and grounded, and somehow that authenticity cut through all the complexity I was surrounded by. I'd meet thousands of people, investors, innovators, dreamers, but she was different. She listened, not to respond, but to understand. We'd have short exchanges, small moments that didn't seem important at the time. Maybe a shared laugh during a conversation, maybe a quiet smile across a room full of chaos. Those moments are the kind that you only appreciate in hindsight. They seem ordinary, until you realize they were quietly writing the first lines of a story you didn't know you were part of yet. I've always believed that life has a way of hiding its greatest surprises in plain sight. We often think destiny announces itself with fireworks, with dramatic timing, with some kind of grand sign, but the truth is, it doesn't. It whispers. It moves subtly, almost unnoticed. And sometimes, while you're busy chasing what you think is your purpose, life introduces you to someone who becomes your purpose. Looking back, I can say that the connection began not through attraction, but recognition. There was a sense of familiarity, as if my soul had quietly known hers long before we spoke. It was a quiet alignment of energy, something that said, "Hey, pay attention. This person matters." But I didn't fully understand it then. I was still too focused on the horizon, chasing the next big idea, the next impossible goal, and yet somehow she found her way through the noise. She admired the vision, yes, but what made her different was that she also saw the flaws, the doubts, the chaos behind the curtain. And she admired those too. There's something deeply grounding about being seen that way. When someone appreciates not just your victories, but also your vulnerabilities, it humbles you. It reminds you that love doesn't start with perfection. It starts with awareness. It's strange how the universe works. You meet thousands of faces, shake countless hands, exchange endless conversations, and then one day someone walks in and everything just feels different. There's no thunderclap, no lightning, no soundtrack swelling in the background, just a shift, a quiet shift, the kind that changes the course of everything that follows. And that's what she was in the beginning, a quiet shift. An admirer who stood at a distance, not expecting anything, not asking for anything. She was just watching, believing, and somehow that belief started to echo inside me. It reminded me of something I often forget, that even when you're chasing the stars, the most beautiful part of the journey is who's watching from below, believing you can reach them. I didn't know then that this admirer would someday stand beside me, hand in hand, ready to build a future together. But if I've learned anything from that beginning, it's that sometimes the most extraordinary love stories don't start with grand gestures or dramatic moments. They start with quiet admiration and the courage to notice it. And that's exactly where our story began. Not with a spark, but with a steady light that refused to fade. There's always a moment when something shifts, when the air feels a little different, when a simple interaction suddenly carries a deeper meaning. For me, that moment didn't arrive with fireworks or fanfare. It arrived quietly, like sunrise breaking through fog. I had known her as an admirer, a friend even, someone who respected the vision, understood the chaos, and offered calm in the middle of it. But somewhere along the line, that simple connection evolved into something far more profound. It began with a conversation that wasn't supposed to mean much. Just two people talking about life, about purpose, about what drives us. But it was in that exchange that I noticed something extraordinary. She didn't just listen to what I was saying. She felt it. Her responses weren't rehearsed or designed to impress. They were real, thoughtful, and disarmingly honest. In that moment, I realized how rare it is to find someone who genuinely connects with your wavelength, not because they agree with everything you say, but because they understand why you say it. There was a spark in that understanding, a kind of clarity that cut through everything else. Suddenly, I wasn't just having another conversation. I was being seen in a way that few ever see you. Not as the person the world talks about, not as the person who's supposed to have all the answers, but as a human being with doubts, dreams, and contradictions. She saw all of that, and instead of being intimidated by it, she leaned in closer. That's when the spark began to grow. What fascinated me wasn't the way she admired the big things, the work, the vision, the ambition, but the way she noticed the small things, the pauses between words, the quiet moments when I wasn't speaking at all. She'd pick up on things most people never noticed, and she'd ask questions that made me stop and think, not about the world, but about myself. That kind of curiosity is powerful. It makes you feel alive in a way that no success or accolade ever can. Over time, those small, meaningful interactions became something I started looking forward to. I'd find myself thinking about them later, about what she said, about how she said it. It's strange how a simple voice can linger in your mind long after the words have faded. That's when I realized this wasn't just admiration anymore. It was connection. And connection, when it's real, changes everything. It wasn't about attraction in the typical sense. It was about energy. You know, when two frequencies align perfectly. That's what it felt like. Two minds that somehow spoke the same language without needing translation. There was an ease to it. No performance, no pressure, just presence. And in that presence, I found something that had been missing in my life for a long time. Stillness. One evening, I remember we were talking about the future. Not in a grand, strategic sense, but about what it means to build a meaningful life. She said something simple that stuck with me. Progress means nothing if you have no one to share it with. It hit me harder than I expected. Because in all my years of building, striving, and chasing, I realized I had been building structures without a soul. That sentence shifted something in me. It was the moment I understood that love, in its truest form, isn't a distraction from purpose. It's an extension of it. From that point on, the way I looked at her changed. It wasn't about admiration anymore. It was about partnership. The potential of two minds, two hearts, amplifying each other. That spark, that quiet, undeniable energy, grew stronger with every conversation, every shared silence, every glance that didn't need explanation. I started to see her not as someone standing outside my world, but as someone meant to be part of it. Looking back, I think the most remarkable thing about that spark is how subtle it was. It didn't demand attention, it simply existed. It wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. It was the kind of spark that doesn't just light a fire. It reshapes your understanding of warmth, of presence, of connection. And that's how it happened. One quiet conversation at a time, one unexpected moment after another. Until admiration turned into connection, and connection turned into something I couldn't imagine living without. Because sometimes the most powerful spark isn't the one that burns bright. It's the one that never goes out. Friendship has always been the foundation of everything meaningful I've built, whether in life, in work, or in love. And that's exactly how it began with her. No expectations, no hidden intentions, no grand declarations. Just two people learning each other's worlds, finding comfort in conversation, and realizing that time moved differently when we were together. What started as mutual respect slowly became something deeper. The kind of connection that doesn't rush, that grows quietly, intentionally, and authentically. We talked about everything, ideas, the future, even the absurdities of life that make you laugh at 2 a.m. She was the person I could be completely unfiltered with. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, by opinions, by the pressure to perform. Finding someone who gives you space to simply be is a rare thing. And she did that. She didn't just listen, she understood. There's a difference between hearing someone's words and hearing their silence, and she mastered both. The transition from friendship to love wasn't marked by a single moment or dramatic confession. It was gradual, like dawn breaking after a long night. We started sharing more than thoughts. We shared vulnerabilities. We talked about fears, failures, and the parts of ourselves we usually keep hidden. And it was in those moments of raw honesty that love began to take shape. Not the cinematic kind, but the kind that's real, built on trust, patience, and shared understanding. I remember one particular evening when we were sitting outside watching the stars. There wasn't much talking, just quiet presence. She looked up and said, "You spend your life reaching for what's out there, but sometimes what you're looking for is right here." That line stayed with me. It was simple, yet it said everything. In that silence, I realized something powerful. Love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who complements your journey, who stands beside you while you chase the impossible. As friends, we challenged each other. She questioned my ideas, pushed back when she disagreed, and never let me get too comfortable. That honesty was refreshing. Real friendship thrives on truth, and that truth built the bridge toward love. Over time, I began to notice how much her presence mattered, how her laughter made ordinary moments brighter, how her perspective made complex problems feel simpler, and how her belief in me made the impossible seem a little more attainable. Love has a strange way of sneaking up on you. One day you're just talking, and the next you're realizing that this person has quietly become part of your rhythm. You start noticing that their happiness matters as much as your own. You find yourself thinking about how to make their day easier, how to protect their peace, how to remind them they're valued, not because you feel obligated to, but because it feels natural. What's interesting is that love born from friendship doesn't ignite like a sudden flame. It grows like roots, strong and unseen, anchoring you before you even realize it. It's patient, it's consistent, and it's deeply resilient. We had our disagreements, of course. We challenged each other's perspectives, clashed at times, but every conversation, no matter how intense, ended with mutual respect. And that's how I knew it was real. Because love isn't the absence of friction. It's the ability to grow through it. Somewhere along that journey, I stopped seeing her as just a friend and started seeing her as home. It wasn't a decision, it was a realization. Every story, every laugh, every late night talk had led to that point. And in that realization, there was no fear, no hesitation, just certainty. The kind of certainty that doesn't shout but whispers, quietly and confidently, "This is where you belong." From friendship to love, our story wasn't rushed or forced. It evolved naturally, carried by time and trust. And if I've learned anything, it's that the strongest relationships aren't built in moments of intensity, but in moments of consistency. When someone chooses to stay, to understand, to believe, even when life gets complicated. Because sometimes the best kind of love doesn't arrive like a storm. It grows quietly from the friendship that never left your side. No story worth telling ever comes without its share of challenges, and ours was no different. Love, no matter how genuine, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's tested by time, by distance, by misunderstanding, by the unpredictability of life itself. What defines a relationship isn't the absence of those tests, but how you face them together. And we faced plenty. There were moments when the world around us seemed to move faster than we could keep up. My life has always been one of constant acceleration, one project after another, deadlines stacked on top of expectations. It's easy to lose sight of balance when everything you do demands your full attention. There were times when I was so consumed by what I was building that I forgot to look up. And when I did, I realized that even the strongest bond can be strained by distance. Not physical, but emotional. She never demanded perfection from me. What she asked for, though, was presence. That was the real challenge. Not being perfect, but being there. Learning to step back from the noise, to carve out time that wasn't about ambition or progress, but about connection. I had to learn that love isn't something you schedule between meetings. It's something you show up for consistently. That lesson didn't come easy. There were arguments, miscommunications, moments of frustration when we wondered if the paths we were on could truly align. But what amazed me was her patience. She didn't walk away when things got difficult. She leaned in. She believed that love was worth the effort, and that belief held us together when logic might have said otherwise. And I did my part too, learning slowly but surely that vulnerability is not weakness, that it's okay to admit when you're stretched thin, when you're afraid, when you don't have all the answers. We both had to unlearn our defenses and meet each other halfway. There were times when distance tested us, moments when work and circumstance placed us miles apart. And yet, even across that distance, there was connection. We found ways to make each other feel close, even when the world made it difficult. A simple message at the right moment, a shared silence over a call, a reminder that we were in this together. Those little things became our anchors. They reminded us that love isn't about proximity, it's about persistence. Of course, not every challenge came from outside. Some came from within. We both carried our own histories, our own fears. There were insecurities, past wounds, the quiet doubts that creep in when you least expect them. And sometimes, love forces you to confront parts of yourself you'd rather avoid. That's the thing. Being with someone who truly sees you means being seen completely. And that's not always comfortable, but it's necessary. Through all of it, the long nights, the silence, the moments when we questioned ourselves, something remarkable happened. We didn't break, we adapted. Every misunderstanding became a lesson in communication. Every argument became a test of patience. Every setback became an opportunity to rebuild stronger. It wasn't easy, but real love rarely is. Love that's been tested and survives doesn't just grow. It deepens. It becomes something unshakable. And in the middle of those challenges, I realized something that changed the way I see everything. The people who truly belong in your life don't just celebrate your victories. They help carry your failures. They don't run when things get uncertain. They steady the ship. That's what she did for me. She wasn't just there for the highlight reel. She stood firm through the uncertainty, the exhaustion, the doubts. And because of that, I learned to love her not only for who she was, but for the strength she brought when I needed it most. Looking back now, I understand that those challenges weren't there to break us. They were there to build us. Every struggle shaped the foundation we stand on today. We came out stronger, more aware, more united. Because love, at its core, isn't proven in easy times. It's proven in the moments when everything feels like it might fall apart, and you choose, again and again, to hold on. And that's exactly what we did. We held on, and that made all the difference. There's a moment in every great story when clarity arrives, not as a thunderbolt, not as some cinematic revelation, but as a quiet certainty. For me, that moment didn't come wrapped in drama or intensity. It came during an ordinary day, one that looked like any other from the outside. But inside that simplicity, something shifted forever. It was the day I realized that she wasn't just someone I cared about. She was the one. We had been through so much by then. The laughter, the late night conversations, the challenges that stretched us thin, and the moments that rebuilt us. But this moment was different. We were sitting together, not talking about the future, not analyzing anything, just being. And it hit me how natural it all felt. No pretense, no effort to impress, no walls left standing between us. There was peace in that silence, the kind that only exists when you're completely at ease with someone's presence. It was then I understood love doesn't always announce itself with a grand gesture. Sometimes it reveals itself in the stillness, when you finally realize that you're home. That realization changed everything. It wasn't that I suddenly saw her differently. It was that I saw myself differently through her. She had this rare ability to make me want to be better, not because she asked for it, but because she inspired it. I'd spent years chasing improvement through ambition, innovation, and relentless work. But with her, growth felt more human, more personal. She made me want to evolve emotionally, not just intellectually. She made me realize that success doesn't mean much if it's not shared with someone who understands your soul. I remember watching her interact with people, the way she treated everyone with kindness, regardless of who they were. There was no calculation, no performance, just genuine empathy. It's strange how the smallest acts can hold the greatest meaning. Watching her in those moments was like witnessing integrity in motion. I saw the way she looked at the world with compassion, curiosity, and courage. And I thought to myself, this is the kind of heart I want beside me for the rest of my life. The moment I knew she was the one wasn't about falling in love. It was about realizing I didn't want to live without that love. It was the awareness that everything made more sense with her in it. Not easier necessarily, but more purposeful. Life suddenly felt aligned. My dreams, my goals, my values, all of it found direction when she became part of the equation. She wasn't my escape from reality. She was the person who made reality worth coming back to. We've all met people who make our hearts race, but she did something different. She made mine steady. And in a world full of chaos, that kind of steadiness is rare. I realized that she wasn't just someone who fit into my life. She expanded it. She brought clarity where there had been confusion, warmth where there had been restlessness. And when you find someone who gives you both peace and fire, you hold on to them. I've often believed that love is both science and art, part logic, part wonder. You can't explain why someone feels like the missing variable in your equation, but you know it when it happens. With her every variable balanced, it wasn't about perfection, it was about alignment, values, energy, purpose, and heart, all converging in one person. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You just know. The day I realized she was the one, I didn't make a promise out loud. I didn't need to. The promise was already there. In every look, every conversation, every moment of quiet understanding. It was a promise to protect what we had, to nurture it, to build on it, not because it was fragile, but because it was precious. Sometimes, knowing who your person is doesn't require an epiphany. It's not about a single event, but a series of moments that all point in the same direction. 1,000 small confirmations that whisper the same truth. She wasn't just a chapter in my story, she was the turning point. And in that moment of quiet certainty, I knew she wasn't just part of my life's journey, she was the destination. When I think about the future we're building together, I don't just see a timeline. I see a shared vision. I've spent most of my life chasing ideas that seemed impossible, building things meant to outlast me, driven by the belief that humanity's best days are still ahead. But this, us, it's different. It's not about reaching for something distant in the sky. It's about grounding that same ambition in something human, something real. Because what's the point of building the future if you don't have someone to build it with? Our future isn't built on grand promises or unrealistic dreams, it's built on partnership. Two people standing side by side, learning, growing, evolving together. We've learned that love isn't just about romance, it's about collaboration. It's about creating a space where both people can become more of who they are meant to be. She doesn't complete me. That's never been the goal. She compliments me. She challenges me when I need perspective, steadies me when I lose balance, and celebrates with me when things finally come together. And I try to do the same for her. We talk a lot about the future, what we want to create, what kind of life we want to live, what kind of impact we want to leave behind. But what makes those conversations special is that they're rooted in reality. It's not about building an empire, it's about building a home, a life where we don't just achieve but also pause, where we make time for sunset's laughter and the small, unremarkable moments that end up meaning everything. Because I've realized that true progress isn't just measured by milestones, it's measured by memories. I see us facing the unknown together, knowing that life will still test us in new ways. But I'm no longer afraid of that, because I know she's the kind of person who doesn't run when things get hard. She leans in, adapts, and finds strength in the challenge. And together, we've built something resilient, a partnership rooted in honesty and respect. The future isn't something we're waiting for. It's something we're actively designing, moment by moment, choice by choice. I often think about legacy, what we leave behind when our time here is done. For a long time, I thought legacy was about invention, innovation, and contribution to the world. But I've come to understand that legacy is also deeply personal. It's about the people who shape you, the love that sustains you, and the stories that continue long after you're gone. She's become a part of that legacy, not as a footnote, but as the core. Because when someone stands beside you through every phase of your evolution, they don't just share your life, they help define it. We dream together in a way that feels boundless but grounded. We imagine a life filled with purpose, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. We talk about building things that matter, about kindness, about raising a future where empathy and ambition coexist. And we remind each other that the best kind of future isn't just one you build with your hands, but one you build with your heart. There's a comfort in knowing that no matter how unpredictable the world becomes, there's someone whose presence brings you back to center. Someone who believes in you on the days when you doubt yourself and reminds you that even the strongest visionaries need a place to rest. That's what she is for me, that place. Not a finish line, but a constant reminder that love, like innovation, is an ongoing process of discovery. When I look ahead now, I don't see uncertainty. I see possibility. I see the two of us continuing to build, not just careers or dreams, but a life filled with meaning. And that life won't always be perfect, but it will always be ours. Built on trust, on laughter, on the unshakable belief that together, we can handle whatever comes next. Because in the end, the future isn't something waiting to be found. It's something we create together, one heartbeat, one dream, one choice at a time. And as I look toward that horizon, I know the best thing I'll ever build is the life we're creating side by side.